Hey Stormtroopers, Brant Cook here, and today we're here to talk about Modern Storm post banning. There was a bunch of them. We're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the Decklist moving forward. But before that, I have a special guest with me here today, the editor of theepicstorm.com. But you may not know this. This guest is also the mind behind the Modern Storm site, Mitch Blankespoor. Hey Mitch, how's it going?
Hey Brian, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for joining us. So
Yeah,
Mitch,
super excited.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I've been playing Magic since probably I don't know, like when Innistrad Dark Ascension came out, and really hooked on to Modern Storm maybe a year or two later. I've been playing it a bunch of iterations and did take a little bit of a break in 2020 from Magic, so excuse my rust. I'll be relying on Bryant a lot as we go through some matches tonight. But I work in college athletics full time, so I work a lot of weekends, which means I can't travel to a bunch of events. So I spend a lot of my time in Magic really just jamming Moto and going to locals when I can.
Cool. And before we continue, Mitch does so much work on theepicstorm.com. A silent hero. Mitch is incredible. I just don't want that to go unnoticed. Mitch is the greatest.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. And again, thanks for plugging the. I have a much more elementary site than yours. It was actually something I looked into doing was trying to mirror slowly the Modern Storm site from the epicstorm.com. So really excited to be in both roles.
So, Mitch, there were some bannings that happened on Monday. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, pretty crazy. We had what was it? Probably one of the biggest banning shakeups in a long time, at least the last 10 years. We had a bunch of things happen. I think the main takeaways for modern would be sort of the Euro decks and those types of just like snow pile type decks are going to be gone, at least for a while. They're going to have to retool, and I think that sort of opens the door for decks like Storm.
Yeah. So, Earl was banned. Mystic Sanctuary was banned. Uh, Simian Spirit Guide was banned. Uh, the Tybalt's Trickery was banned, and then there was a fifth card. Was it Teferi?
I think Teferi
Pioneer.
was in Pioneer. Yep.
I can't
Let me
think of
look it
the
up.
last card that was banned. But that's 4 or 5. That's good enough, right? Like, that was a joke. Maybe I'll remember throughout the course of this. But before we get into our
Sorry to
games,
interrupt, Brian. The last one was Field of the Dead.
feel
Was the fifth one.
yep, a
Yep.
card that is not relevant to Storm. That which is probably
Right.
why I didn't remember it. But
Yep.
before we get into the games, let's go over the deck list a little bit. So, uh, you may know from my previous videos, I'm a big fan of the fetch land mana base, and if you're curious about that, you can go to theepicstorm.com/modernstorm and read why. I have it all listed out. I do think it's better. It gives you better odds with Bergie, especially, or Bergie. I go back and forth on how I say that. Please forgive me. But you thin your deck. There's less lands for you to reveal, which is beautiful. Same thing with an effect like Pieces of the Puzzle as well. Makes you a little bit better against Blood Moon out of Black Red. There's a lot of subtle benefits, in my opinion. And then we have our 12 cantrips. I am a believer in sleight of hand. I like the consistency, and it's always great to reveal cantrips to Burgie because it's more cards that you can draw. Even if they're bad, you can just discard them to Burgie, essentially draw two more. Like having this chain that always gives you +1 is a beautiful thing.
And just to interject a little bit, Brian, also in the sideboard games with Aria Flame, chaining cantrips can lead to wins.
Oh, that's
So
very
really
true.
important, just sort of whichever axis we're trying to attack the opponent on, cantrips are huge.
Yep. Brawl's a pretty standard 4 of. We are down to 2 copies of Remand. This list is actually pretty close to what I recorded with last time. And before I go any further, I just want to say thank you, Modern fans. I mean, I had a weird pause there, but thank you. The Burgie video that I recorded last week is the second most viewed video on this channel. Thank you, everyone. I do appreciate the love. Thank you, Storm community. You're all great. Yeah. So this main deck is very similar to that main deck. However, we've cut the third remand for a Goblin Electromancer. Mitch, what's one of the benefits of running an Electromancer here?
So we kind of talked about this a little bit in our sort of before going live. I'm really interested to see how Burgie or Bergie, I think I'm going to go with Burgie, does in this league. But I think having a fifth bear that's 2 mana against like really aggressive decks is very helpful. Obviously, having a cost reducer, and that's kind of what the whole deck is predicated on, at least game one. And this might be a little bit fringe, but there could be an instance in which we might want to cast Gifts Ungiven and get three, enablers, get a Burgie, Electromancer, and Baral, and then guarantee to get one in our hand. That might not come up, kind of a fringe case, but that's a reason maybe to keep the one of in there as well.
Yep. And it's worth noting, we were expecting the metagame to be a little bit more aggressive. With Earl leaving, a lot of the aggro decks got better. We're expecting a lot of burn. We're expecting a lot of hammer time. And black red aggro or black red shadow is in there. Um, yeah. So we're just looking to see a lot of that. And that makes Remand not very good. So we're going to skim down to 2 and still triple Grape Shot. Grape Shot is great against all of the decks that we just listed. Bergie,
Yeah,
obviously.
just to interject one more thing too, Brian. I think some people, when I watch people play Storm when they're just starting with the deck, and for those of you who might be watching this video that are just starting with Storm, don't be afraid to burn a Manamorphose, a Ritual, and a Grape Shot to kill 2 creatures. I think sometimes people think of Grape Shot early on in their Storm sort of careers as just the win condition, but having 3 Grape Shots here means we have access to draw them more often, and I'm hoping, I would guess in these couple matches we played tonight, you're going to see Grape Shot be a removal spell tonight.
I hope so too, Mitch. So one of the things about this list is we are not running Slendy Vision. We are running Sleight of Hands. But one of the benefits of running Slendy Vision is that it gives you a card not named Gifts Ungiven that is good against Veil of Summer. The back half of Burgie, named Harnfeld Horde of Bounty, is also very good against Veil of Summer. And when you have triple Grape Shot, you're more likely to find Grape Shot off of the Horn, which is a really big benefit. And something I noticed in the last league was discarding Past in Flames to the Horn. Beautiful. I loved it so much. It just feels so good.
Yeah, it's so much value. I'm really excited to see the Horn work tonight. Hopefully we get to see it. I think one of the things that makes Burgie so attractive is, and you mentioned this in your first video, sort of unveiling this new deck list, Brian, is Burgie is an enabler, but the back half is also a way to win the game, particularly against decks like Jund. I know Jund hasn't been super popular with the Uro snow decks, but if Jund ends up coming back, the back half of that Horn can't be Abrupticade, right? It's very difficult to kill. And I think of cards that my crazy self has played as like Fact or Fiction or even like Precognition Field. There's certain card draw engines that allow you to recuperate when your hand has been disrupted by Thoughtseizing and Inquisition and Liliana the Veil and things like that. Really excited to see that tonight.
Yeah. And then to go to the sideboard, Spell Pierce over Dispel. I'm expecting a lot more Azorius control, if I'm being completely honest. And with that, we want to be able to counter Narsets and Teferis. It's better against a wide open field. I actually really like Dispel as well, but Spell Pierce is more versatile. And when you're coming off of a banning, you do want versatility. The format is not yet solved, therefore, more versatile cards will get you a little bit of an extra inch on your mile, sort of thing.
Yeah, I very much agree with that, 100%.
Yeah, and I was running, I was not running Mystical Dispute, but once again, very similar thing. Uh, I do think it's probably a little bit more versatile than Dispel personally. And then Echoing Truth, Dismember, Flame Slash, and the bolts were all the same from the previous list, but we're not running Surgical Extraction. That's because Oops All Spells is likely dead without Simian Spirit Guide, so I'm running a third copy of Lightning Bolt in that spot, and then the other Surgical would be the third copy of Aria. Aria is really for the black-red deck, the Shadow deck. It is an MVP there. It's also really good against a lot of graveyard hate. Mitch, how worried are you about Aether Gust on Aria Flame moving forward in this new metagame?
Yeah, great question. The real answer is we have no idea. Aria Flame, I think one of the things that I like about it the most is it's an alternate win condition that really synergizes well with the cantrips that we talked about, and even just like casting rituals just for nothing other than to trigger Aria Flame. So I think that's the reason why it's there. There always are going to be removal spells. It's always brutal when you cast Aria Flame, and then Teferi bounces it. Things like that can be really brutal. Aether Gust has seen a decent amount of play, but I think Aria Flame is too good of a card in this deck not to play it, and sometimes you just have to jam and hope they don't have it.
I would agree. Um, yeah. So then the final two slots in the deck list are Braid and Empty. They're pretty stock in most lists. Not a whole lot of interesting conversation to be had about them. But it's worth noting we are running 3 main deck Grape Shot, no Repeal, no Empty. When we went over the metagame for Goldfish, there's a lot of aggro decks. And a lot of them, including like Blue Red Blitz, which is another aggro deck we didn't mention, goes over Empty. And it feels pretty bad when you empty for 8 or 10 and lose the game because all these aggro decks are not going over you. Blitz doesn't care about a bunch of 1/1s. They'll just fly over you with the Sprite Dragon. Hammer Time, who cares when they're just going to trample over you? It's just like pretty embarrassing, if I'm being completely honest. And Repeal is like kind of a pipe dream, in my opinion. Like, people run it because like they're afraid of main deck Leyline of Sanctity or like Ruined Halo. But Mitch, how often are people playing these cards at all, yet alone the main deck?
Yeah, great point, Brian. I think if I remember right, the main reason why some of the Storm communities started playing Repeal was when Humans was a big thing, and they could Meddling Mage Grape Shot, and you just lost the game. Which, if you look at our main deck here, if that happens in game one, yes, we're in big trouble. But I think the point is to not sort of dilute your game one strategy to some of these more fringe cards and just accept the fact that, hey, if someone plays Leyline of Sanctity game one, we're pretty toast. And you click concede, you move on. As someone who's played the Epic Storm and Legacy a lot, Brian, you've done this before. I watched your little part of your video from the other day, and you got Trinisphered game one. Like, game one, first match, just got Trinisphered game one, and scooped it up and moved on to the next one. I think sometimes when you're playing a dedicated combo deck, it's important to remember that your best way to win the game is to just execute your combo and worry about. I think it's much more important to worry about things that will stop your combo in post-board games than I do in pre-board games.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, the way that I look at that, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Mitch, is I look at the law of averages. Like, you might lose a random game to Humans, which is, as of today, 1.5% of the metagame. You might lose a random game one, but over the course of, let's say, 1,000 matches, you might lose, what, I don't know, 7 games to Humans game one. But how often is that third Grape Shot going to win you more games than 7? Like, that's what I'm interested in, and that's why I run 3 Grape Shot in the main deck.
Yep, well said.
All right. So, Mitch, do you have any final thoughts before we go into round number 1?
I think the only thing, just to let our viewers know, Brian, is the last slot in the sideboard we had talked about was the third Aria Flame. So if you like this deck list and you want to try it out yourself, subbing out. If you're going to sub something out in the sideboard, I think we talked about either the third Aria Flame or potentially even playing 0 copies of Empty the Warrens. As you said, it's kind of gone down in popularity. But that'd be my last comment before we get into matches.
Yeah. And once again, if you like this content, please subscribe. Help us hit our monthly goal. I'm only 35 subscribers away from that magical 200 subscriber mark this month. I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, so that's all I have. Round 1 will be coming up in just a second. Stay tuned. All right, welcome to round number 1. I have Mitch Blankespoor with me here. Mitch, we are likely facing Death and Taxes. How do you feel about that matchup in Modern?
Yeah, great question, Bryant. So I definitely think the deck list that we talked about, having a lot of removal spells in the sideboard, I think is going to be really big in this matchup. I think a lot of times people hear Death and Taxes and they get really squirmish when they're playing Storm, but I think the matchup in Modern is, in my opinion, significantly different than in Legacy because we don't have Wastelands, we don't have Rashadan Ports, we don't have some of these things that can be really suppressive.
Yeah. So we might not be facing Death and Taxes, but Doran could certainly be in the Modern Death and Taxes. Mitch, I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of this hand against Death and Taxes. You have 2 enablers, can't trip. I think lands. They do run Leonin Arbiter, so I'm going to fire the Scalding Turn off pretty quickly.
Yep, and I agree with you. I think in the dark, I would keep this hand almost all the time. If the cantrip was a ritual or another bear or something else, I'd think about shipping it, but I think this hand is fine.
So I would actually disagree with both of those statements only because
Okay,
Bergie is our action spell here, I think. I think we're looking to play Harnfeld Horn of Bounty.
sure, that's fair. That's fair.
I could be wrong, though. Who knows? I'm wrong a
Hmm.
lot of the time. All right, waiting on our opponent, and they've mulliganed and kept 6. All right. Plan here is to fire off and opt on their end step after we have a little bit more info.
Hmm. And I think it's important to note, even if we didn't assume death and taxes, this is still the right play to play Scalding Tarn first here.
It's worth noting that we drew 2 of the fetchable lands, so we'll have 3 more. All right, Mitch, what would you do here? Like, are you afraid of Path to Exile? Like, are you going to bottom this brawl, or would you keep in case of Path?
I would bottom this brawl here.
As would I. I would do the same thing. Another Bergie actually isn't that bad, to be honest.
It's very good we bottomed then.
Now let's fire off this brawl.
Hmm.
So the Bergie here actually acts as a second brawl because if we get pathed here, we can play a Bergie and then on the following turn play Horn. You still have double enabler, which is just really nice.
And also one thing to note too, our opponent didn't do this, but sometimes running out a bear on turn 2 like this, ooh, a third Bergie's not the best draw. Running out a bear on turn 2 like this can scare the opponent into casting Path to Exile instead of a 2-drop if they had one. Some people do that, so it's important to know.
So Mitch, what would you prefer here? Are we playing a Bergie or are we trying to cast the Horn?
Hmm.
So I think I
Um,
know my answer, but I'm interested in yours first.
okay. And again, for people who may have skipped the opening, I haven't played a lot of Storm in the past several months, and I've not played with Burgie a ton either. I think my instinct here would be to probably try to play the Horn only because our hand really is lacking action. Otherwise, I certainly could be okay playing Burgie here too.
Okay. So I could be wrong. I'm not an expert. I've only played
Hmm.
Bergie the one video. I haven't played Modern since our last video, so I don't have a whole lot of more reps than you do. But here I'd
Hmm.
probably play the front half of Bergie just because next turn
Sure.
we can play Desperate Ritual for 4 and then go off without them somehow destroying Bergie or anything like that. So I think
Sure. That's
I
fine.
like playing Bergie here, but it's not like a slam dunk
Hmm.
either way.
Sure.
And there's no point in attacking here. We're just going to pass.
Nope. I agree. And that's an important thing to note too. Some people may have tried to chip in there. I mean, people could block too, but the life doesn't really matter.
Ooh, it's the
Um,
Heliod combo version.
yep, yep. Puts us on a little bit of a clock here.
I think I like playing the ritual here. Horn actually makes a mana too, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
Alright, let's discard.
An important thing there that Bryant you mentioned in your first video to not play the land there because you can play lands off the horn.
Correct. Um, so I think we take Remand here, which might seem a little bit odd, but if we hit a spell
I
off
agree.
this, we can actually Remand and then uh, play extra spells, which is really nice. Slight here's interest, or no, I'm sorry, not Slight. Serum Vision's interesting here because we're starting to get a little bit of bottlenecked on blue. Wow, that was just insane.
That was amazing.
So, yeah, we're gonna top.
Now, one thing to point out there, Bryant, an alternative line could have been, which I don't think is correct, but could have been pass with remand up and a card to discard. Um, to remand, although you do have the brawl loot as well. But I like being aggressive here.
Well, this is certainly a way to start off our league, huh?
Yeah, it sure is. And just so people understand, this is not a definitive win yet. Although we're going to cycle through so many cards with this horn, and now there's a gifts ungiven, so it is, barring like a surgical extraction or something, this is the game. But before that gifts ungiven, we were probably like what 98% to win the game, given our flashbacking all those cantrips and with the horn as well. Boy, the horn won us this game, huh?
Yeah. And it's definitely the power of horn. So here, I think, like you said, the only way we could possibly lose is surgical extraction. So in my opinion, we just don't allow that to happen. We don't put a grape shot to the graveyard.
hmm
I don't know how you feel
And I
about
also
that.
think, yeah, I also think too here, Brian, this might be a good point to just give a video to people who might be new with Storm to show. So at this point, yes, we could get Grape Shot and kill them. The chances they have game one surgical, I think, are very, very small. But we can also continue to chain cantrips, and because of the horn, we can pretty much get. I mean, I have to do quick math here, pretty close to all the way through our deck to find that Grape Shot and get the kill without exposing it to surgical.
Actually, I'm going to discard this to the horn.
hmm
And there's grape shot. What's our storm count? 10?
Yep.
So now we just play a bunch of rituals and it should be easy peasy. Wooch wooch.
And again here, you could go, an opponent can see you could go Grape Shot, Flashback, Past in Flames, Grape Shot, but then you open yourself up to surgical. So here in the sideboard, we had talked about expecting some aggro decks here, Brian, and this is, I guess, kind of a combo deck, but definitely one that removal is very good against.
So Mitch, off the top of my head, I don't have a lot
hmm
of. In fact, I've never faced the version with the Heliod combo in it. Off the top of my head, these are 7 cards that I think might be useful in this matchup. Um, I don't even know if we have 7 cards we want to board out, if I'm being completely honest. So I do know that I am not a big fan of Remand in this matchup. Like that is a card
I was just going to say that.
I don't mind boarding out. So
hmm
typically, what I would do here is I don't mind shaving a gifts and given. Um, like I think that's probably fine, especially now that we have Bergie. And then I would board out 4 cantrips. And because we're not keeping encounters, I like boarding out opt. But I'd be interested to know your thoughts first.
I like that. I also think this is a deck that I assume doesn't have a ton of removal, so I'm not opposed to trimming a bear or two. What do you think about that?
I just, I don't know. So my problem with shaving a bear is we're either shaving an engine because like these are engine
hmm
spells. So I don't know
hmm
if I like cutting gifts and given and then shaving a Bergie only because that's -2 action spells in the deck. Um,
Right.
and
I
it,
would I would not if I'm gonna shave a bear, I would not shave Gibson Gibbon. Yeah, I agree with you there.
so like then you shave the 1 Goblin Electromancer to keep 1 opt, and I don't know if that's worth it to me. Like I think
Sure, that's fair.
and I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know
Sure,
how
that's fair.
good 1 opt is.
hmm
Let's try this out.
What's the odds our opponent is playing like Leyline of Sanctity? What do you think?
Well, we do have an echoing truth that that is the case.
Yep, yep.
um,
I think this hand's great.
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have a bear, but we have a turn one play. We have removal to slow our opponent down. I like this hand a lot.
Yeah. So our opponent's mulliganing to 5 at the moment. Yeah, these sort of hands end up leading to like really long and interesting games, which is always great for
hmm
content creation purposes. I know the viewer may not care about that, but I always like to think about it a little bit.
And I do think, Brian, it's important to point out that in a lot of matchups, post board games do get grindier, and they do tend to be longer with Modern Storm.
Great
That was a
draw.
great draw.
So I don't know
Hmm.
about you, Mitch, but I am inclined to take the canal here over the bolt. We have plenty of removal, and I think land number
Yep,
3 is
I agree.
probably pretty important.
I agree. One small question. Did you give any thought to leading on island?
I did, but I was afraid of Leon and Arbiter.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So if we draw a Morphos here, I am not against killing both of those.
Hmm.
Boom!
Jeez, sniped. So this is the example I was talking about in our sort of talking about the deck. Don't be afraid to use Grape Shot in this way, especially when you have 3 copies. Brian, here's a random question for you. Have you ever, when you were just starting to play Magic Online, have you ever lost a game to clicking storm triggers with Grape Shot incorrectly?
Only all the time.
Yeah, right. Hmm.
That's a cool card.
It is.
I think I like playing the Brawl out here. We actually have Echoing Truth to protect Brawl as well.
Hmm.
So Mitch,
And if our opponent cats path, sorry, 1 second, it's not like we really care a ton either.
yeah.
So,
So this creature doesn't have lifelink for what it's worth. So this isn't going to get them to that magical 7 above.
hmm.
Ooh. So how do you feel about bouncing around Electromancer here? Or I'm sorry, bouncing around Brawl here. They're hellbent, so
So, yep, yep. I think because they're hellbent, I like it a lot. So just to think about it, if we don't do this, our hand is like doesn't do a ton, and we have ways to slow them down. But I definitely like this trade.
sorry, I
And
am
like,
playing a
look at their
little bit fast just because I'm slightly worried about clock. We're down to 17. I doubt we're going to
sure,
time
that's fine.
out, but it's something I'm always conscious of. And what a draw!
It's a great draw.
Love to see it.
Hmm.
I think I'm just gonna fire Bergie or Horn into play. Are you okay with that?
I am, yes.
So, question: I know that this is a little bit of a bold play. We
Hmm.
could discard the Abrade looking for a land to grape shot their team. Um,
I don't like that only because I think we're definitely in the favored position here.
okay.
Now I don't know what the opponent could have. Like they could rip something here that really hurts us. But to me, I make that play if we're like staring down lethal or feel behind. Does that make sense?
It does. So, just so you know, if I draw a red source off the top, I will make fun of you, Mitch, but I do agree that it's the wrong
Okay.
play.
Sure. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
if I was playing for, the top 8 of some event, I would not take that play.
Incoming Spire Bluff Canal. Just kidding.
And it's worth noting that Skyclave Apparition actually can't exile Horn, which is really nice.
Yeah, and that's a great card to discard to Horn.
You called the canal. So here I'm going to discard the Abrade, Bolt, and I'm going to discard the Grape Shot now just because a Ritual will likely win it. No Ritual. Um,
Got a lot of cantrips though.
so it's interesting. Do we start on Visions here or do we start on Slight?
So, great question. And again, this is something for someone who's just picking up Storm might not realize. Um, if you're trying to combo on your combo turn, Sleight of Hand is by itself, if you don't have another cantrip, is better than Serum Vision because you see 2 cards instead of 1. I guess my question to you, Brian, is do you think this is a setup turn or do you think this is a go for it turn? Because to me, right now, it seems like it's a setup turn. Um, yeah, that's what I got.
So Past in Flames gets exiled if we don't use it right now. So to me, it's a go turn. Like I want to
Okay,
find a
that's fine.
Ritual,
I
even
forgot
if it's
about that.
only
That's
to
true.
dump Past in Flames in the graveyard to flashback later.
Sure, that's fine. Yep, I forgot about that. Good call.
So to me, I would start on Serum Visions here, even though it's a
Hmm.
go turn. And how lucky! No justice.
Boy, boy, you should have me on more often, man.
After this league, I think if all the other games go like this, it's a no brainer.
And that's just me inexperienced with a horn and not remembering that the cards get exiled if you don't use them.
You have a lot of Storm knowledge. Don't undersell yourself, Mitch.
The other thing that I was just thinking about sideboarding too, Bryant, that I've done in the past, which I'm curious on your thoughts, just while you're comboing off here. Um, and this definitely wasn't like a Death and Taxes like we had assumed. This is more of a combo deck, but assume we're playing Death and Taxes for a second. Do you trim a copy of Past in Flames in post board games?
I don't like to do that personally,
Okay,
but you can. Like I think Past and Flames gets even better when you have Bergie or Horn Bergie, whatever.
that's
So
true.
what I'm wondering right now is we only have Storm 8. Our opponent's at 25. Uh, I guess it's probably better because like we need another. Oh no, we have double grape shot. Yeah, we have double grape shot. I'm just
Yep,
blind.
yep. I think this should be enough.
I thought we only had one.
Hmm. Yeah, we discarded one of the horn, right? Our second one.
Yeah. So let's cast a slight here because it's free. Okay, our opponent got bored. But that was round number one. We have to really see the power of Horn this time. Like that was really sweet. Hope I'm a little bummed I didn't do that sort of thing in our last video where I was advertising Bergie, but that was just awesome. Any final thoughts on this match, Mitch?
No, I agree. I think it really showed the power of horn, especially in game one, about how huge of an enabler it is.
Yeah, definitely. All right, round number two will be coming up. Stay tuned. It'll be great. I promise. Even better than this match.
Mhm.
All right, round number two. Number one Poner. We are on the play. According to our opponent's Goldfish history, they like larger Tronish type decks. All right, Mitch, we have an interesting hand here. We have 2 enablers and 5 lands. However, one of the enablers is our new favorite card, Burgee. Mitch, how do you feel about this hand?
So yeah, I mean, we talked about how impressive Horn was. I think I'm shipping this one.
Okay. I'm on the fence about it, to be honest, but I'll ship. This hand, Remand is always good against the Tronish type deck, so I think we're probably keeping this.
100%.
And what would you bottom here?
Um, for me, I think it's either a ritual or a land. I think I would probably lean towards a land, but I think it's close.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question because my initial thought disagrees with yours. Why not Grape
Sure.
Shot if we think that we're facing a Tron deck?
I mean, if we think we're facing a Tron deck, then I think that's fine. I guess I was thinking about it more in the dark. I think having Grape Shot could be valuable. But if you're set on, the opponent playing big creatures, then sure, Grape Shot's good.
I am someone that believes in using Goldfish to your advantage.
Sure.
So we have the choice here between leading on Vents or Spire Bluff. I think the odds that we draw another Spire Bluff in the next few turns is not super relevant. So I like leading on Vents to save potential damage.
I agree. That and our hand needs to draw something in order to do something on a potential turn 4 like that. So I agree.
Yeah. All right. So probably not a Tronish type deck. Bop Hansen, and we get punished for bottoming Grape Shot.
Hmm. But again, I don't think your logic was wrong, right? It's just if we're in the dark, you agree with me, right? I think you bottom mana.
I probably would have
And,
bottomed
and
the
that's
Pyretic in the dark.
hmm But we have Remand here, so
Do you think that this is Jund? Like, Jund typically doesn't play Birds of Paradise style effects.
no.
Treefolk Harbinger. That's pretty sweet. Or
Boy,
Harbinger.
Grape Shot.
I like
Grape
saying
Shot would have been
Harbinger.
such a
I'm
beating
just
here.
going to say Harbinger.
Yeah, Grape Shot would have been such a beating here.
Yeah.
It's all right though.
Please
So
forgive
are
me.
you assuming this is? Assuming this is like a Court of
Doran.
Calling Company deck or yeah, Doran? I
I think
guess.
it's just
There it
like,
is.
yeah, I called it. Look at that. Boom. Wow. The disrespect attacking me with a bird like that? How dare you?
And I do think it was right to not remand.
Yeah.
100%. I think some people might have just to cantrip, but the tempo swing is just potentially too big here. even though with that land they're going to be able to replay the Doran here. But I think we fire off Remand here. What about you, Brian?
They can't replay Doran here. They don't have a third mana.
Well, they can't. You're right. That's right. You're right. I got one mana forest cards in my hand on the field, thinking that they can all just tap for mana. So
All right, so this
this
is
is
the
basically a
spot
time walk.
where I would love to draw Bergie.
And Bergie is much better than Brawl or Electromancer here.
I think I'm just playing Brawl Pass.
So that's fine. My instinct was to play Morphos this turn. Whether you play Brawl first or not is different. I wonder how many potential removal spells they have. My guess is probably not a ton. My inclination is to fire off Morphos here, looking for something.
Okay, well, we'll take your play. I don't mind it. All right. So Mitch wins twice this game.
Well, I did say that Burgee was going to be infinitely better than a Baral, and we just ripped Baral. So maybe 2-1. But I guess so. My rationale is, again, as you're comboing off here, Brian, to not wait is at minimum you're at least cantripping, and I guess I don't know what waiting gets you. I think the debate there is, do you play Baral and then Morphos, or do you just play Morphos? The danger of playing Brawl Morphos is if you brick and they removal spell, then you're in a little bit more trouble. But glad we got there.
So how would you board? Like, these cards are like cards that I'm like, they might not be bad, but I'm not like excited about them either. I don't have a lot of experience against these sort of decks. I don't know if anyone does, but what do you think?
I definitely like bringing in bolts and flame slash to. I think bolting a mana dork on the draw can be very powerful. I think in games, in my experience, Storm gets behind against these dork decks when they're able to speed something out before you're ready for it. But we do have 3 grape shots. I guess I feel like, Brian, if we're playing 3 bolts and we don't bring in bolts here, why are we playing the bolts? I don't know.
For me, for burn.
That's my thought.
Like, to
Yeah,
me,
that's fair.
These are mostly for red decks. But
Yeah.
what are you boarding out then? Because, like, to me, like, the 2 Remand are pretty easy, and after
2
that,
Remand
I'm
are
not
bad.
sure.
Like, well, I honestly, I don't know what kind of deck we're playing against. Like, they could have a great many things. I think my inclination is to.
Like, my thought is they're a white deck that is switching power and toughness, so they probably have Eidolons, if I had to guess, which makes me want these 3.
Okay.
I mean, I could be wrong about that. I'm not positive. I don't mind shaving an opt. And if you want to, Mitch, I'm not against this. We could board out 3 more opt for 3 bolt.
Okay. So if they have Eidolon, then having a bolt potentially stops it from coming down in turn 2. I don't know how much of a difference that makes to you. I would board bolt in here. I'm not saying that's correct, but I would. So your decision whether you want to leave. Yes.
Okay.
I think I could also see, again, I don't know what kind of deck there. I could also see trimming like the Goblin Electromancer potentially if you want to play 1 op. If that's the same conversation we just had.
No, I'm not a fan. All right, let's try this out. We can always board in the ops for game 3 if that is the issue. So here we have a dangerous hand. Obviously, this hand is the Stone Cold Nuts if you draw a red source on turn 2, but why take the risk? The London Mulligan exists, so let's not do that.
Agree. 100%.
Yikes. Okay, this hand seems fine to me. So we bottom 1 gifts. That's pretty obvious. What is your other bottom here?
This is a good question. I think we have to keep 2 lands. So I think it's either the ritual or one of the bears.
I have an unpopular opinion. Sorry, you go ahead first.
Okay. I feel like it's either Bergie or Electromancer.
Gun to your head. You have to pick one.
I think I would pick probably Bergie because we're on the draw.
I would bottom
But
Berkey.
okay,
Berkey costs 5
maybe,
mana to get into play. We don't really have that right now. Plus, if you draw another ritual, this hand wins.
right. This hand, I mean, again, we mulligan to 5, but this is a, like you said, if we draw another ritual and our opponent doesn't have interaction, we win.
They have the Doran.
Brian, I can't say that I've played more than one match in my life of Modern against Doran Siege Tower.
I honestly, I think that I've probably played a couple.
No,
But
that was a
I've
good
been,
draw, by the way.
yeah, it was pretty good. I've been playing for some time. I like both of these, but unfortunately, we can only keep one. I think we're supposed to keep the ritual.
I agree.
If only we had boarded out Sleight of Hand and kept Op, we would have drawn both. Clearly, Sleight of Hand's the worst
Yeah,
card.
there you go.
What is it? Duress.
Okay, it's fine. Kind of makes me wish we would have kept the land there now, but, hindsight.
Well, I'd also like to point out something. People are very quick to comment on the modern Storm content that I make, saying, "Why do you play fetch lands? Something something scrying is better." We bottomed to Gifts and Given to start this game, and we just drew another. But I think that's a really weird play that they left Gifts and Given. So to me, that almost says that they probably have a Veil of Summer. But now we have backup. So when you take that play of bottoming Gifts and Given, and then it's there for the rest of the game, they play discard. So that means for essentially the rest of the game, you're operating on 2 copies of Gifts. And I don't think that that's good. And like sometimes you need that reshuffle. And just because you scried something to the bottom in the beginning of the game doesn't mean you don't want it for the rest of the game. And I think sometimes people get a little too caught up in that.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so Bolt could, I guess Bolt, never mind. I'm wrong.
Yeah, Apparition's a good card.
So we can actually end step Gifts now.
Yep. And I like doing that, especially with maybe a second. I think it makes it a pretty easy play. That's one thing that I think some Storm pilots get a little bit scared at, like why burn the ritual? But here our hand doesn't like do anything, right? If we just pass. So I like it.
I don't know why I'm doing it now, but I did.
I think what we get here, Brian, is potentially very interesting.
So this could be one of those lines where we get actually the Electromancer's under here, so we can't do that line. We almost did the bear line.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So if I were playing on my own, I'd probably do a pretty standard pile here. I would most likely do Ritual, Morphos, Past in Flames, and hope to draw a land and cast another Gifts and Given on their end step.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Sure.
I don't know if you have
Yeah,
any strong opinions otherwise.
yeah.
We're at 9 actually, so
Well, that
there's
was one
some.
thing I was going to say. I don't think we have like some people might go for like a cantrip pile or something along those lines, but we don't really have the luxury of like we're dead in 2 turns,
So I
right?
think the real thing
So
is I think we do take the pile that I suggested, but the plan is to
mhm.
just draw Baral because then they can win, and they're never going to give you Baral. So
In this situation, they never would. That's correct.
in theory, you could get like an Echoing Truth Dismember Flame Slash pile, but I don't think that's very good either.
If we could get our Electromancer back, I think then that becomes a real option. We could play some mind games with our opponent, but Apparition's very good.
Apparition does not do that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
We will get a Grizzly Bear.
Hmm.
So that is a chump blocker.
It is. Yep.
Technically, we could block Apparition and go to 1. We would need our opponent not to have anything in hand. But I think that's our best shot of winning this.
Mm-hmm. And here, I don't think you have the luxury to Morphos and just Morphos and then Bergie. I think we need the Morphos to generate mana.
I do agree. All right, so we are dead and going to game 3.
Yeah, but we mulled the 5, and we made our opponent have what they have. They had Apparition, they had Duress, and they had a removal spell.
So I think I want the Ops over the Bolts. Like, I didn't really see a reason to have Bolt in the deck, to be honest.
Sure. Now, if the opponent had gone Mana Dork, that's different, but I like being more aggressive on the play. I think that makes a difference.
Great
And I
hand.
like this hand a ton. It's a very good hand.
Like, I don't know if there's a single matchup that I would mulligan this hand in.
No, I agree.
This is the kind of hand that you take home to mom and pa, introduce them. Like, it's definitely a keeper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, again, would you... Oh.
So this is interesting. I think we actually take the Brawl here.
I 100% agree with you. Because we're going to play... Now we jam Brawl in turn 2. Our opponent, if they have a removal spell, is going to be forced to use it because they're going to be scared of it. Hopefully they don't go Mana Dork into Apparition.
Interesting. That was a decent draw.
Mm-hmm. Now, I guess another just random question for you, Brian, because we have some time. Any thought to play the Island and Sleight of Hand instead of Fetch on turn 1 to save 2 damage, potentially, or no?
You can do that. So this goes back to the scrying thing. Like, sometimes, like, you want to bottom the cards, and they're actually just passing here, which is really interesting to me. I don't mind.
That was a good draw. So they're passing. Huh. That's really interesting.
So we have the Past in Flames in hand already, which means that we're just getting rituals here. Veil of Summer. Okay. Kind of brutal. Not the end of the world, though, because of this Past in Flames.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just pass now. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And thinking about it, there really wasn't a good way to play around that. I don't think, because we don't have enough gas in our graveyard to try to bait it out. And I don't think it's wrong to not play it and play too scared, force them to have it. So my guess is maybe not. I thought maybe they play Apparition here, but
so if we draw
Doran,
a mana
also,
or a ritual, Spellskite, sure. It's worth noting that they are representing. I was going to say another Veil of Summer, but if we draw a mana now, we can actually cast Past in Flames and do some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's draw a ritual.
That's not a bad draw.
Hmm. I think I want the land, though.
Okay.
We are in an interesting spot, but part of me wonders, what is in their hand if that's what they played out? Unless they're going for, some hate bear that then we can never, ever target. And if that's the case, we just lose.
That was a pretty brutal, 3 cards off Visions, though. So no Veil of Summer now, huh?
So it's a 4, so I think it naturally taps for a green.
Oh, it does. Okay, I gotcha.
Um,
That's right. It taps for green, and then you have to pay 1 to get Orzhov colors. That's right. Wonder why the pause here.
I think that they have another Veil of Summer.
They do. Why would they play out like kind of a meaningless Treefolk Harbinger though?
I don't know. And they got another Doran. Am I reading that correctly? Oh,
I
they did
think
not
they were.
use the
They
Harbinger's ability.
yeah.
Okay, so we can cast Past in Flames here.
Yep.
We can go
I think
Ritual
we
Morphos,
need to do it.
but right now it is not a game-winning Past in Flames.
No, but it's 100% one we need to cast because our hand doesn't do anything.
So what I would like to draw off this Manamorphose is actually another Ritual. That would be probably the best thing in my opinion.
Hmm. At the very least, we've got a couple cantrips we can cast to set things up. Let's see.
Um,
Hmm.
so
That doesn't do a whole lot.
we could cast Sleight of Hand, and so that would bring us down to 3. Um,
So again, here this is a better example of what I was talking about earlier, where Serum Visions you see 3 cards, but you only get to draw 1 of them. So in this situation, is it better to see 2, pick 1, and then cast Serum Visions, or cast Serum Visions and then potentially Sleight of Hand?
it's better to cast Sleight of Hand, in my opinion, because you only have one
I agree.
blue,
I
and
agree.
then you need to cast Gifts. So what I'm trying to figure out right now is there any sort of way that our opponent messes up on the Gifts pile and gives us mana? If we get like Rip Morphos. Um,
Sure.
I think I'm supposed to cast Light.
Yep.
Brutal. But we do have Past in Flames for next turn.
So now we gotta hope this hits like, yeah, can gifts there. Hmm. One, two.
We're probably going to have to chump block, to be honest.
Yep. Yep.
So 3, 8, 10. So yeah, we have to chump block next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So something to consider is that next turn, let's say we play Brawl into whatever. We don't actually have we don't have anything to do with Past in Flames. So are we supposed to get another Gifts here? Or do we get Bergie?
Yes.
But like Bergie they can just discard and then we're in a similar spot. So I think we're supposed to get another Gifts.
Yep. I agree with you.
It's just going to be a blah if they have another Veil.
My read, Brian, is they don't, because why would they have played out the Treefolk Harbinger? That doesn't make sense to me.
So I think you're giving a little too much credit to our opponents, to be honest. They thought really, really long about playing out that Harbinger. That's the tell. They
Okay.
decided that the damage was more valuable, at least in my
Okay.
opinion.
Sure.
So we are forced to trump block here. If our opponent has the removal spell, we're actually just dead again. We will be dead to Tree Folk aggro. And it looks like they're leading on a black, so we are in fact dead.
Yep, we're dead.
Yeah. The Veil of Summer was too good. Ban Veil of Summer, clearly. That was a joke. Don't ban Veil of Summer. But, losses happen. I don't think we played wrong. At least I don't. Tell us if we did. I don't know. But I don't think that we did. And we are now 1-1. Hey, Mitch, I think that we are on play for the 3rd round in a row. How do you feel about that?
Always nice to be on the play in Modern.
Alaris of the Dream Den. So likely burn? Unfortunately, no landers aren't very good in this format. This seems reasonable.
It does.
So, Mitch, I have a secret for you.
Okay.
I really, really hate facing burn.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about the burn matchup is obviously it's not favorable, 100%. I think it feels a little bit worse than it actually is because the games you lose are just like blowouts, not close, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'll also be
I'm
honest, though. I think it's because I win like 25% of my games.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it burns a bad matchup. If it is burn, it's not a good matchup at all, for sure.
Yeah. So game one's tough for us because really, even in lists with repeal, most of the time you're trying to kill Eidolon with a grape shot, which is just means that they get to fire blast you for free, and you have to put the mana investment in. But like with repeal, it's 3 mana, which is really slow, and Burn's going to capitalize on that.
The way I look at the burn matchup, game one, Brian, is you hope to get in a situation where you win the game if they don't have Eidolon. That's kind of the way I look at it.
So I'm taking the remand here, so that way I can maybe try to win the game on turn 3 after a turn 2 remand.
We need like a Morphos and a Gifts.
All right, so this actually just might be black white shadow or black red shadow.
hmm
We'll get to flex our Aria Flames in the board. Thinking on this turn 1 play.
Seeing Luris makes me think of the days when the Epic Storm played Luris.
They were great days. I don't miss that format though, if I'm being honest.
hmm
So, knowing that our opponent's on black red, do you hold up remand here with Manamorphose on top, or do you cast Sleight of Hand?
Um, I feel like my inclination is to cast Sleight of Hand.
Why?
Here, what turn to play are you very afraid of? I guess my concern would be you hold up remand. What if they just go another discard spell?
Yeah. For what it's worth, I agree with you. I just
hmm
wanted a second opinion, and I'm taking the
Sure,
Morphos here.
100%.
I also think it's another subtle reason that I like taking the line that we did is if you go Steven's Shock Pass, it's a dead giveaway to what's in your hand.
Yep, 100%. For what it's worth, too, the remands are probably the first two cards out of our deck post board.
I do agree. All right, we're gonna pass. You might be asking like, why don't you opt to maybe draw a land? That's just a greedy line. Um, you can always opt on their end
The,
step if they don't cast anything worth remanding.
I think the only reason, Brian, I would take that line is if drawing a land would lead you to potentially winning the game on that turn, which clearly your hand is far off from that.
Yeah. They have activated the bauble.
They target us or them.
They targeted us.
Okay.
Why not? Let's fire it off. That seems like a reasonable remand target.
Mm-hmm.
Also slows them down from sacrificing Bomat. And it's good because they have a tension with Bauble here. they're drawing a card because they wanted to sack Bomat, draw two, and then draw off Bobble, and that's no longer the case.
Yep.
How do you feel about playing Electro Bro right here?
I don't like it. I think my inclination would be to either opt main phase or just pass.
I'll be honest, I was always going to pass. Um,
Okay,
so
that's
this
fine.
deck is full of removal, and I don't want to give them an opportunity to attack with Bomat, get another card, use a removal spell, and then draw three. So I'm much more of a fan of play Electromancer, play my ritual. If they try to kill it, I ritual again and like use that a little more efficiently.
Right. I guess I was saying if we opt into like a Serum Visions or a Sleight of Hand, maybe we wanted to cast that last turn. That was my. I definitely agree with not playing Electromancer here, 100%. I just didn't know if you were going to opt main phase.
I don't think you need to personally. Like I don't mind taking things slow. Like maybe I'm wrong. I don't think we're dead.
Sure.
But they can make this +7, I guess. Second bear is okay. Hmm. This is interesting.
It is. If it were me playing this game, I would start. I would lead with opt here, but I'm curious what you think.
So my concern is, let's say they double fetch, double shock. They go to -7. I'm sorry, -6. So this becomes 10, 15. Um, and then if they can, I guess they would need removal spell plus more damage. I guess main phase opt is okay. So we are dead to Temur and Battle Rage. Is a card just worth pointing out.
I guess I think it's more likely they have removal. Like if we had a fourth land.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think I like passing here. And assuming that they don't kill us, we're going to kill them on our turn. Most likely because they're going to try to fetch to improve the amount of damage they're doing, and then we can grape shot
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
Why didn't that make it larger? I thought it was the difference between players' life totals.
20 minus the highest life
Ah,
total among
highest.
players.
Gotcha.
So we have 16.
I think I misunderstood how that card works. This is actually my first
Hmm.
time facing the card. Like I've faced the red black deck before, but they never actually cast Scourge against me.
Yep. Same here.
So our grape shot line may not work. 7. Uh-oh. If this is the battle rage. Why did I say it out loud?
Yep, it
Ah,
is.
and they can even pay for
However,
remand.
I don't know if we're beating like the bolt there.
Yeah,
Like just the way our hands set up, I don't know if we're beating those two cards.
brutal.
That is unfortunate.
Womp womp. Alright, so I really like Arya in this matchup.
100%. This is like one of the main reasons why Ari is in the deck, right?
Yep.
I agree.
So we both agree on taking out remand.
Hmm.
I've done something that a lot of players do not like doing in this matchup, which is I like boarding out all of my creatures. Well,
Hmm.
I didn't mean to do that, but I'm a big fan of just like playing the game in a manner that doesn't benefit our opponent. Like they have lightning bolts and pushes and all that stuff. I like slowing the game down.
Does this particularly? I think it's if you leave Electromancer in this matchup, like I'm assuming they play Collective Brutality in some capacity. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I agree with you. I think at most you leave in maybe 2 bears, but at that point, what's the point, right? I agree with you.
I'm just focused on winning with Arya for the most part. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm also okay with like doing 2 spell pierce, but I do think it can be a little bit weak. Like if you're going to board in spell pierce, you're probably not boarding in a few of these removal spells.
Yeah. I agree with you. I tend to not like permission against heavy discard decks because if they know Pierce is there, then it's not that difficult to play around.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you.
So while we wait for the second game, why don't you open up the description below, go to the social links, and join all of our channels. While you're down there, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Join our entire community through those links. They're great. A lot of good discussion. The Discord's fairly new if you're unfamiliar. It is mostly legacy based, not modern, legacy. And we talk about multiple Storm archetypes there. So you'll get a lot of input from the Storm community. Granted, it's not modern, but you can learn the thought processes and other things like that of how other Storm players think. And if you're interested in following Mitch, Mitch also has a number of social links. Mitch, where can they find you?
Yeah, thanks. We're on Twitter at Storm Modern. Getting coming up on. Let me see. We're getting maybe close to 1,000 followers. Let me check here a second. 835. I have a website, mtgmodernstorm.com. Again, it's in its infancy compared to the Epic Storm, but we're slowly getting there. I would appreciate you following, and I hope sort of this collaboration between us two continues.
Well, I hope it does. You work for the Epic Storm. If it didn't, I'd be pretty
That's
sad.
right. Yeah, you're kind of my boss, so you
Not
know,
really. You do a great job. You don't need me.
appreciate that.
So we are on the play. It didn't work out game one, but we're going to do it again. So it's weird. A lot of people are really excited to open hand Aria. I think it's fine, but I also think it's a card you don't want to open hand. I think it's
I
a
agree.
card you want to draw into.
Do you also buy in this matchup, Brian? If you get a mixture of lands and spells, you're pretty much keeping, knowing you're
Yes,
playing against discard.
100%.
Like you almost want to see a hand of like 3 lands and a bunch of cantrips. Like that. Arguably, that's the best opening hand you could have.
So, Mitch, I have some bad news for you.
Okay.
Our opponent is disconnected, and I think I realized it while we were boarding because they took up the entire 2.5
Hmm.
minutes and didn't sideboard. Like you could tell once it got down to 0 that they submitted without sideboarding. So our opponent's
Sure.
currently MIA. Hopefully they come back because I'd actually like to play Magic. I think it's pretty bad for content purposes if we lose game one and then win the match because our opponent, disappeared. But yeah. So why don't I show a little bit while we wait? If you want to show your appreciation for this content and you want to thank us for creating it, theepicstorm.com/shop. We have tons of card singles, including some modern storm staples. We don't have the entire deck on there, but we do have a good portion of it. That's theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you're not interested in card singles, which breaks my dear old heart, we do have some pretty sweet merchandise. The Storm 20 baseball tee is one of my favorites in the shop. We have the pint glass play mats, stickers. But Mitch, what is the most useful item in the shop in your opinion?
The one that I purchased is the you have I don't know if in the shop now or um, doing them at points during the year, but the small miniature cards for the amount of mana you have, the amount of storm you have. I use those when I play
The
paper, which
token
again hasn't
pack.
been in a while because of COVID. But yes, cannot recommend that enough.
So I was setting you up right there because I was going to pitch it anyway, with or without you, Mitch. But
Okay.
the token pack is by far one of the most popular items in the shop. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I'm still getting used to my new Streamlabs layout. Where are you, token pack? There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. But with the token pack, you get 54 tokens overall. You get 20 storm tokens, 10 black, 10 red, 6 blue, 3 green, 3 white, 3 colorless. 54 overall. You get 9 unique goblin tokens on the back that repeat, so you end up getting 6 each with these goblin token designs, all Epic Storm themed. And they are mini. They're half the size of your standard token. You can get those at theepicstorm.com/shop. And I'll be honest, they're really, really high quality. They're put on an actual card stock, like actual playing card stock. I have a set for every one of my combo decks, and as you know, I play combo in every format, Mitch. So they're great. I keep them with all my deck boxes. They're really useful. They're also really affordable. $12 for 54 tokens is a great value.
That, and as you said, it supports the content that you do, that I edit, that is on the epicstorm.com. We'd really appreciate it.
Mitch, I have some bad news.
Okay.
Our opponent decided that they didn't like us enough to play against us, and we've been rewarded a very pitiful game. By game, I mean match win. So we're now 2-1. Not the greatest, but I think we'll take it.
Yeah, kind of a bummer. I wish we could have gotten to see our sort of board plan in action there. Aria Flame is just nutso against these kinds of decks. So,
well, what if our opponent was so afraid of triple Aria that they just took off?
Could have been the case.
Yeah. I'm going to go with that one. So, viewers out there, they were so afraid of Aria Flame that they just left. That's the truth. Don't try to tell me otherwise. I'm not going to listen. All right, round number 4. And for Mitch, for once we are not on the play. Not ideal, right?
Nope. I always want to be on the play on Modern. I do think that makes our, in my opinion, because we're on the draw, I tend to lean towards keeping this hand. But I could see, I'll rephrase. If I'm on the play, I'm more apt to ship this than if I'm on the draw.
Okay. I think this hand's probably fine in my opinion. I don't really know what our opponent's playing. Their Goldfish history is all ad nauseum. So, ooh. How do you go from playing ad nauseum to playing Burn? Not cool. So, Mitch, assuming that they are playing Burn, and I could be wrong, but I think Seal Fire normally signifies Burn. Are you getting Steam Vents or are you getting Island here?
It's a great question. I think I lean towards, given this opening, I lean towards getting Island. And the only reason why I say that is we have 2 cantrips, not 1. And secondly, leading on Sunbaked Canyon, does that make you think just potentially that might be their only land?
Maybe. Brawl was a great find there, but we do need to draw a second land.
Feels like they just drew that Arid Mesa.
Brutal. So, Sleight of Hand digs 2 on this turn. I'm just looking for a land. Did not hit. I think we're probably dead.
I agree.
So there's a world where our opponent taps out, and then like we gifts and given with a grape shot in the pile, and like kill Eidolon, but it's like sort of wishful thinking in my opinion.
Another just random question for you. Assuming that our first 2 cantrips were Serum Visions or Opt and not Sleight of Hand, do you concede before you show them Gifts and Given?
I don't think it matters. Like most people know what Bryant Cook plays.
Okay, sure, sure.
But maybe if you miss there, like instead of discarding, you just concede.
Sleight of Hand is a little bit more of a tell, but if I'm playing my screen name or just a generic screen name, someone that isn't known, I probably would concede without showing them.
Okay. So these are the cards that I like boarding in. I like Bolts, I like the Echoing Truth, and I like Arias and Empty. But we have a lot of cards that need to come out now. I don't actually like Bergie in this matchup. I think it's a little too slow.
Too slow.
Dice to Bolt. I think Goblin is questionable. Like they have Seal of Fire, so I'm going to board it out. And now we need two. Um, so it could be two gifts and given for what it's worth. Because like
My my I if it were me, again, not saying this is right, I would board out a Past in Flames because it's clunky. You're going on the Aria plan somewhat. If you don't want to, that's
what
fine.
about
But
this?
I like that.
Okay,
I
let's do
like
that.
that. I could potentially see bringing in Flame Slash also as another 1 mana slow them down spell, but I understand not to. I like this hand though.
Me too. All right, so I'm gonna lead on Island. I want to keep the turn
Hmm.
open. I think I take Ritual here.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yep.
hear me out. What if we take the vents and then just like double cantrip on the? Hmm. No, let's stay. I think we're just gonna Ritual Aria next turn.
Okay.
Am I crazy for wanting to do that?
No, you're not. You're definitely not.
So, are we getting Steam Vents because we have two blue spells, or are we getting the Mountain to save damage?
I think you get Mountain here. What do you think?
I'm like 50-50.
Okay. Well, like I said, you're the one that's controlling. I would get Mountain here, but you can certainly get Vents if you want.
Like I'm 50-50, so if you're confident on Mountain, I'm gonna trust you.
Hmm.
All right, they missed a land drop. I like to see that.
Yeah, it's good for us. So again, it's worth noting just to think about. We could be at 14 here, but have another blue source. But
Ding
that worked out
dong.
well.
So, how do you feel about killing Swiss Spirit? Too greedy?
Um, I think I lean not to do that because they missed a land, and I would rather save Grape Shot to snipe an Eidolon. That's my inkling.
It could also be a finishing kill spell for what it's worth.
Hmm.
I'm taking this light here. I think we just want to
100%.
keep the cantrip train going.
Yep.
It's worth
And
noting
this is
that
another.
the
Go
mountain
ahead.
is
Sorry.
whoops, didn't mean to do that. The mountain here is a little awkward. If we had gotten the steam vents, we'd probably be a little bit further ahead right now, but we'd also be closer to death.
Yep.
So many seal of fire. I'm glad we boarded out
Yep.
Electromancer.
And this is another thing, Brian. I know I've harped on this a couple times. You can tell me to shut up if you want, but playing the 12 cantrips really makes Arya more potent.
That's a little awkward. I think I'm going to end up trying to kill the Swiss Spear this turn. I think we're too close to death if we don't.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, here's one thing to note. Um, could have we gotten the canal and then just grape shot for 2 to save the damage?
In theory, yes. I don't have strong
I didn't get
opinions
that.
on that.
If they have like a Phyrexian spell that hurts us, it doesn't. The extra damage doesn't speed up the clock. I guess it would have helped if we had drawn another cantrip. Your line is much better.
I think I'm just going to pass here. Gifts on their end step.
Yep, I agree.
Maybe make them respect something.
Alternatively, you could like just empty for 2 if you wanted to, but I don't think it matters at this point.
So we're dead to land, burn spell, double seal of fire. I think we won this game by the skin of our teeth, and only because our opponent's deck failed them.
I would also like to point out, Bryant, that if we would have shocked for Steam Vents, we'd have lost the game.
I don't know if I agree. So, based on this board state, yes, but I think we'd also would have been 2 turns ahead.
That's true. That's true. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Um,
You're right. But I guess the point was, even on 1 mana, we took an action to save life, and
what do you think
that
about boarding
helped
out
us.
a Grape Shot for the Flame Slash?
I like it.
It's less clunky.
Yep. If we have another potential, we could play the Abrade too. Well, that's expensive. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. We would have been ahead by fueling more cantrips together. Ooh.
They kept 7. I think this hand's a little bit of a trap.
I think it is too. I agree.
I'm in.
This hand is great.
I'm not taking questions. I am just getting rid of that Grape Shot. I'm sorry.
Nope. That's exactly what I would have done. Nope. That's exactly what I would have done.
All right. So I bet that they have an Eidolon.
Yep.
I'm just going to pass with the
Ooh.
Canal and set Bolt it and then untap.
Yep. Yep. I think the best draw on our deck is a Ritual. So we can Ritual out Aria Flame and then have Morphos 2 cantrips in hand.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Honestly, I'm okay with the Bolt draw as well.
Mhm.
So what's nice about this is we are going to have Opt or Bolt up for next turn. But I think, like,
Yep.
I don't know if I want to cast the Opt. I think we might just play Aria Pass. Like, I don't know if I want to cast this. Like, let's say our opponent does nothing. I don't know if I want to cast Opt.
I certainly think we bolt a creature. If they play a creature. Yep, that's
Nice
fine.
time lock. You were never about that life to begin with.
Yep.
Suspended Rift Bolt.
Rift Bolt. Yep. 2 cards in hand, so if they're both... Ooh, that was a good draw. 1 turn late.
Honestly,
But-
I'm fine with it. It's going to allow us to
Mhm.
play more spells next turn.
Mhm.
All right, so we're going to 11 here. Our opponent has 2 cards, so I don't think there's a 3-card combination that kills us.
Not this turn, no. You're right. And we have Bolt for the Eidolon. We get a couple good ones off the top here, Brian. I think we win this game.
So our opponent is probably going to sack Sun. No, what is this? Oh, it's the. Wow, that card's huge. I've seen this before. Creature Planeswalker. So that's actually not relevant to us.
So it's just a big 6/6, pretty much.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's start off by casting a few rituals. So it might seem crazy here. I'm going to start on Opt because if we draw Serum Vision, actually that doesn't matter. I'm going to start on Morphos. It's actually worse if you lead on Opt with a Visions draw. Well, that was interesting.
Does that thing have trample? It has trample, though.
It
but
does,
We can make a lot
but-
of goblins.
It's still a chump blocker.
100%.
I think we're supposed to bolt just to make 2 more goblins.
I agree with you.
So we are going to 10 here. And actually, they might have to play defense now. Because they're going to 4 and we have all these goblins. But I guess defense doesn't make sense either. Who am I kidding?
And any spell is going to kill them.
So
Is there a combination that beats us here?
Boros
if
Charm
there
gives
is.
double strike.
But we have 12.
Yeah.
I think we won. Hey Brian, I've got some bad news for you.
Yeah.
You may just have to have me on every modern video now if we beat Burn.
That might be the case. So, in theory, we could be dead to Boros Charm plus, like. No, I don't know. I'm just going to block
Yep.
with a bunch, though.
Yep. Block, block, block. Yep.
I'm going to block with 7 because it soaks up. If they want to keep their creature alive, they have to. And, like, this is also still lethal. Ooh, I forgot about that line. Because now they get to kill a creature. So that's actually a pretty good line from our opponent. I think we might have just messed up. Maybe not. What is their last card? Oh, apparently it was a blank. Wow, we have
Awesome.
defeated
Nice.
Burn. How crazy is that? Aria Flame lifting us, carrying us over the finish line in both post-board games. How exciting. Aria, yeah. This is like the sort of thing you also get to do when you're running Bergie because you're not running pieces of the puzzle on the board anymore. Like Bergie carries that role in the matchups where you would want pieces, so it opens up sideboard slots. And we saw that little bit of an extra advantage here in this match. The final round, Mitch. And once again, we're on the play. I know you're a big fan of being on the play. You've said that a bunch now. Mitch, our opponent's Goldfish history is a lot of aggressive red decks. You said that you don't like your Burn matchup. I imagine we don't like Is It Blitz. Assuming that there are on those decks, how do you feel about this hand?
I don't think you can ship this hand.
You heard it here first. Mitch, the owner of the Modern Storm site, said you cannot ship hands with Burgie in it. Fact.
I just have such a hard time in the dark shipping a hand that has a cantrip and a bear and a payoff. And as you said, Burgie is both of those things.
The fact that Burgie's dynamic is just so beautiful.
It's amazing.
So, you have two options here. You either lead on Delta and then step Opt, or you go tap Steam Vents Pass. What do you like more?
I like leading on Delta.
Okay. We will take your line. Honestly,
What
if
have
I
you
were
done?
playing
Vents Pass?
on my own, I probably would have played Steam Vents Pass.
Okay.
I don't know what they're playing, but that was my natural inclination. I don't know. I don't see us winning on turn 3, whatever they do. So it looks like they're playing Titan. And by Titan, I mean old school red-green Titan.
Yeah, Titan Shift.
I don't think we want that. Look at all these bears. Is there a reason to play Brawl over Electromancer here? I guess we have 2 Remand in the deck.
Yeah. I'm more thinking of if they played some absurd, like, 2 damage spell in their deck. I don't think it makes a ton of difference.
So I think next turn we play Burgie, turn after Electromancer into Gifts.
You wouldn't hold up gifts for end step
You could.
on this turn? It's interesting.
Okay, so that
Now
didn't
we
matter anyway.
now we just play Burgie. Yep.
Another land. I think I'm just going to get a land out of the deck.
Yep.
So would you play Burgie before Electromancer here?
So I think I would because we have another payoff in gifts. If we didn't have gifts, I'm much more inclined to play Electromancer. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't have strong opinions either way. To be completely honest, I do like that Electromancer will make a mana next turn, so it's essentially a 1-mana spell.
I guess my thought was we're probably going to cast gifts, most likely. So the making of a mana isn't as huge of a difference. I don't know. That's what went through my head.
So if you play Electromancer next turn, it not only makes a mana, cast Gifts and Given for one less, so it's essentially a free spell. And then the Past in Flames is much better on the backhand as or
Sure.
back half as well. So our best draw by far is a Ritual.
Hmm. And I believe, did the opponent cast a second search that they have coming off suspend next turn? Or am I imagining that?
That is correct.
Okay. So they're going to have Titan
It's been so
next
long since I
turn.
faced this deck.
It's been a minute.
And we get then the 3 damage chip shot, and we drew the Ritual. It's like Christmas. I mean, they're playing red and green. It makes completely sense. I didn't mean for that to line up, but take 3 damage and like it. So I'm going to play Goblin first
Hmm.
because it creates the red mana for Ritual and makes Ritual 1 less. It's like a perfect world.
Hmm.
I don't like that it makes
So,
you select that mana every time. It's kind of a pain in the butt.
just moto things. And this should be just pretty standard kill from here, right?
Correct. I almost jinxed it by saying what our opponent could have in their hand, but I'm not going to do that.
I did too, and I'm not going to say it either.
The number one rule of playing combo is you don't say the cards out loud that you're afraid of, which is what
Yep.
you saw me lose game one against Black Red because I did that. So I was like, they don't have the Teamer Battle Rage, and then, or they could have it, and then I died. So you never say those cards out loud. It's just a given rule. Never do it.
Hmm.
So much mana.
And just to pause for a second, for someone who might be watching this video that's really new to Storm, this is the quote unquote standard pile, which is a guaranteed kill.
As long as you have 3 mana floating, it always wins.
Yep. And a bear in play.
Correct. I mean, Burgie's not really a bear, but Burgie now applies. But like Burgie's a hill giant. So can we say bears and
There you go.
giants?
There you go. That's right.
So last week I made the joke that without Goblin Electromancer in the deck, you could call the deck Blue Red Legends.
You did.
So that's also a thing. As long as you have a legend in play. Let's pop out the graveyard. I just feel like I have to click a little bit less to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
We have essentially infinite red mana. Would you look at that? So we have enough here. I guess there's no reason to expose yourself to possibly losing. We'll just cast gifts.
Yep. Just gonna say that it's important to go through the process to avoid like surgical extraction or something along those lines. Again, you would think the opponent would have played it by this point. And why would you have surgical main deck in a red green Titan deck? But people do weird stuff. You never know.
I remember getting very upset during the beginning of Phoenix, losing the main deck surgicals. It was like week 1.5, and
Mm-hmm.
I was not a happy camper.
Yep. My kind of fun story about the deck we're playing is I was 6-1 with Storm in a classic Star City Classic, and my one loss was to this deck. Played 4 Damping Spheres post board.
Doesn't seem very nice.
Nope.
So much red mana. What's kind of cool about having a reducer in play and Burgie is that rituals that are actually +4, they're better than
Mm-hmm.
Cabal Ritual and Legacy because they cost 1 mana and they make 4. It's like calling the weak with
Mm-hmm.
no drawback.
Insane.
Sorry, our triggers are hidden over here. Too many
So
zones going on.
cards to watch out for here, Brian. I'm just gonna shout some out and see if you agree with me or not. Could definitely see Weather the Storm being played in the sideboard. Probably some number of Damping Sphere, I would guess.
Okay.
What do you think?
So in general, I like boarding in a braid, and I like boarding
Mm-hmm.
in Equitruth as generic catch-alls. I do
Mm-hmm.
like Remand in this matchup. I'm
Mm-hmm. Same.
actually fine shaving one Grape Shot because they're not really a deck that Grape Shot's good against. I do think it's important to have two though for Weather the Storm. I learned that the
Mm-hmm.
hard way against Tron a couple videos ago, where I lost to Weather the Storm because I only had one Grape Shot on my deck. And sometimes these decks play Relic, and having two
Mm-hmm.
Grape Shots also a great way of beating Relic. So I do like having uh, the Abrade, Echo and Truth, and Double Grape Shot. So sometimes I think it's okay to board and Spell Pierce here. You'll be able to get some people off guard on their scape shifts. You'll be able to counter a crucial ramp spell. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, how do you feel about Spell Pierce in this matchup? I'm not sold one way or another. Don't feel obligated to agree with me.
Sure. I think Spell Pierce can be a trap because they're a ramp deck, so they can ramp out of it really quickly. And if you don't draw it early, it's not great.
Okay.
I think I would lean towards if you're going to bring it in, it's on the draw,
Okay.
and I guess you hope you draw it early. I think my instinct would be not to,
Okay.
but I could be wrong there. What do you feel about some people board an Arya Flame in this matchup? What do you think about that?
I'm not a big fan of that, honestly.
Me either. Me either.
I'm okay with
Because
boarding out an Opt here. We do need one more card to take out, and I think every other card in our deck is so crucial to our game plan.
mhm.
It's worth noting that they are probably a Veil of Summer deck, so Bergie is going to carry a little bit more weight here.
Mhm. What do you think about shaving the Electromancer?
I think that speed is ultimately king against Scape Shift,
Yep,
and
I agree. I
yeah,
like this hand.
yeah, this hand's great.
I think for some people that bring an Aria Flame, this is just my opinion here. You can disagree with me. I think they are people. Some of the people that do that are not comfortable comboing through soft graveyard hate, such as like a relic. Like if you played Storm enough, you can beat a relic of Progenitus. But I think some people when they start out get intimidated by, oh, if the opponent's bringing graveyard hate, then I have to audible to Aria Flame. That's not always the case.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually had a really sweet, speaking of graveyard hate,
Hmm.
pauper play on a Discord call the other day. I played Songs of the Damned into my opponent's Nile Spellbomb, and they spellbomb me in response. And somebody on the call goes, "Why would you do that? That was a really dumb play." I'm like, "No, this play was great." I'm gonna bottom the sleight of hand here. I don't think we need that.
I think you want the land though.
Yep. So they're like, "That was a dumb play. Why would you do that?" And I said, "Just hold on." I then continued to play spells into Reaping the Graves with the spellbomb still on the stack. Returned all of the creatures, allowed the spellbomb to resolve, cycled all the creatures before Songs of the Damned resolved, and then won the game. So like as long as you
Nice.
think crafty enough, you can always beat cards like that. Like it's not the end of the world.
Hmm.
So Mitch, crucial
Hmm.
question for you right here. Would you
Yep,
double
I think I
cantrip
know.
this turn or would you hold up Remand?
Um, I think because we drew another one, I would probably hold up Remand here. What do you think?
So I'm trying to think what 4 mana card do we care about on their turn? I don't know if there's one we actually do care about.
Yeah, Chandra might be the only one that puts us on a clock, but we have the Echoing Truth to answer Grafdigger's Cage. I'm okay cantripping here. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think every turn after this you do hold up Remand, but I think this is the turn where
That's fair.
you um, I don't know, spread your wings a little.
And one thing to note here, again, this is a small thing, but Bryant's absolutely correct to play Sleight of Hand followed by Serum Visions because you see more cards, and we're out of mana for the turn.
So it's going to seem weird here. I am going to keep Sleight of Hand. It's essentially free because it allows us on our next turn to advance our game plan while holding up Remand, and it's better than a
Mhm.
random draw.
Yep. Most likely, the way this game is playing out, we're going to have Remand up most of the rest of the game. Do you agree?
Yes. This is an interesting play here because it tells us that they could have a blue splash. They
Hmm.
might not. It might just be a red green cycle land. But if that was the case, why wouldn't it be a sheltered thicket?
Hmm. Mm.
Not the greatest draw. So the question is Ritual better than land 5?
It's a good question.
I
I think
think
if I was playing, I would take land, but I think you could talk me into taking Ritual here too.
let's take the line. Why not? I'm not in a rush.
Just because of like we don't have any action in our like if we had Gifts and Given in our hand, I think I'm much more likely to take the Ritual there, but we don't have any action in our hand. And with the Remands, we're allowed to play a slower game.
And our opponent's not exactly showing that they want to be aggressive either.
Hmm.
Like they're attacking with this tribal, they're getting in their extra damage. They're
Hmm.
just playing land slowly. So if our opponent's also at a slow pace, like it's okay to just like, advance your own game plan. I'm gonna play this tapped this turn. No reason to
Okay.
shock.
The only reason I would potentially shock there is to play a mind game that we have Gifts Ungiven. What do you think about that?
I think the damage is too relevant when they're a Veil
Sure.
cutback personally.
Yep, that's fair.
So the play I'd be worried about here, and they did not do it, would be Cavern into Titan.
Hmm.
We're gonna send that Titan straight back to their hand.
Hmm. Couple good draws here. That's good. That's one.
Step one.
Now of note, that's not step two. I would probably try to avoid fetching, right? Because we have some cards in the bottom of our deck that we don't want.
Correct. I am going to play a Brawl here.
Yep,
I want
because we
to
need to
abuse the
cycle. Yep,
remand interaction.
100%. And if they go like Titan Veil of Summer, they do. Like we can't stop it. We're gonna remand Titan again, 100%.
It might sound crazy, but I would love to draw Past in Flames.
Hmm. Same. Well, Bryant, we got one matchup where Remand was good.
Like we said before the video started, I didn't think it was going to be very good. So I'm going to discard the turn here for the reasons that you
Yep.
mentioned.
Yep. We're set up here. We need. Oh, hey, there you
Boom!
go.
So this is not a guaranteed win. And in hindsight, this turn would have been slightly better. But I'm going to start on Echoing Truth on the cage just in case they have Veil. I know that I'm not burning rituals.
Ooh, they're F6, huh?
So there's no reason here to cast Light from hand, knowing that we can cast future ones from the graveyard. We have enough cantrips in our graveyard where there's no reason to cast the one from your hand.
Of note, we correct me if I'm wrong. We do not have Morphos.
We
Oh,
did not, and our
hey.
opponent decided to concede. All right, so we got the 4-1. Let's go back to the deck list and look at it a little bit, Mitch, before we sign off. So, Bergie, in my opinion, looked fantastic this league. It looked even better than it did in the previous league. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I think as we've talked about before, you said it in your first video, the sort of bimodal function of Bergie being an enabler and also being a payoff with the back half, and we got to see that in the very first match about how good the payoff is. I definitely think that you're going to see Bergie popping up in a lot of storm lists going forward.
I would agree. How would you feel about the Electromancer change over the third remand?
Well, in that league, we kind of talked a little bit about how we expected some aggressive decks, and it's a new format, so that's going to shake itself out. I definitely, with what we saw tonight, wouldn't want to play 3 remands at all. Like if anything, I might even go down 1. So I definitely I like the 8 bears, or enablers as you call them. I don't know if you want to go up to 4 Bergie. What do you think about that?
4 might be a little bit much in my opinion. So
I
before
agree
we
with you.
went live, Mitch and I talked about playing a Noxious Revival over Remand, but we ultimately decided on 2 Remand. Noxious Revival is like constantly my 61st card, 61st card. I don't know, 61st. That's not even a word. 61st card. But I will play it one day. Trust me, I talk about it every single week. It just hasn't happened yet. But Noxious Revival could be your 60th card if you want to make up words. It could be that. And then, really, once again, I want to reiterate we won the burn matchup due to Aria Flame because we had the extra slot, because we're not playing pieces, because 3 Bergie is so good.
Yep. I also want to point out, Brian, I thought 3 Grape Shot felt pretty good in
Yeah,
that league too. Now, obviously, the selection of decks we played against, it was good. So keep that in mind. But 3 Grape Shot did feel good.
for sure. And before we sign off, why don't we open all? And I don't know what any of these cards are. I guess I know this one. I don't know. Pretty average. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe, follow all the social links, follow Mitch on Twitter at Modern Storm, or is it Storm Modern? I'm sorry.
It's Storm Modern.
Storm Modern. My apologies. Yeah, and once again, thank you for watching. Mitch, I'm sure we'll be back in the future if you liked Mitch. And if you didn't like Mitch, don't tell me about it because I don't want to know. Everyone, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Hey, Brian Cook here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, but also follow the social media channels down below. If you want to support this content directly, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you need a little bit of assistance with the Epic Storm to get to that next level, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/tutoring. Don't worry, there's more great content coming right up.